Hello and welcome to Bread and Thread, a podcast about food and domestic history. I'm Liz.
And I'm Hazel. We are two friends who studied archaeology together and love history and trying out things from history and just making things. And we normally start by talking about what we've been making. So, what have you been up to?
I don't remember if I've mentioned it on a previous episode, but I did make sunlight soap.
I can't remember, but that is cool.
Without the colonialist palm oil. I just used the pine nut oil. But
Okay.
like having it side by side with lard soap, you can see why people flocked to it. It
Uh-huh.
smells nicer and it feels nicer.
I imagine lard soap doesn't smell that nice.
Like it doesn't smell bad, but it doesn't smell good. Like there's aftertastes? There's like an after smell.
An after smell. Okay. Yeah, I can see why you would want a sunlight soap because I don't want to be walking around with an after smell.
All on your clothes as well.
Oh no.
Well, because we said, didn't we, that it would be laundry soap as much as for washing your
Oh
body.
yeah, that's true. You'd just be covered in after smell.
Just a bacony after smell.
Oh gosh.
So that's the main thing I've done. I've been experimenting with punch needle, but I've only done a kit so far. It's fun though. It's nice to stab things in a less precise way than with embroidery.
That sounds really cool. What kind of texture does it have?
Um, like a really tight pom pom,
Okay.
which I guess makes sense because it's little loops of wool.
Yeah. Is it like it's often used for rugs, isn't it?
Yeah, the kit I had was for just a picture of a bee that you can hang up,
Mhm.
which I'm gonna keep that. I like bees,
Awesome.
but I
These are
am gonna
good.
try making a rug.
Cool.
Not 100% settled on a design yet, but I will keep you updated.
Excellent.
What have you been up to? How did your grandmother portrait go?
So I finished it just in time. I pulled a couple of late nights just before, but I made it. I made it to the birthday.
Mhm.
Um, well, it wasn't her actual birthday, but it was the birthday weekend. Um, yeah, so I got it done. I'll hopefully remember to put a picture of it. I didn't really get great pictures because as at the time I was giving it to her, I was also being dragged off by a 3-year-old to like go and play. So I didn't
That
really
will
get
happen with
time.
3-year-olds.
Yeah. Um this is my cousin's kid. She's such a great 3-year-old. Like she's so bossy. Um, when you play with her, she's just like, "Come here, sit down. No, not there." She told me to lay on the floor, and then she was just like, "Stay there for 3 hours." She hasn't really grasped the concept of time yet. So
I mean, did you?
no, I pretended to look at my watch, which I wasn't wearing, and then I said it's been 3 hours, and she was like, "Okay." Anyway, I finished the embroidery piece. It was really difficult for me actually because I'm not used to so much. Like I like to work from a pattern usually. And this time I had to make it from a photo. Um, and the realistic embroidery technique was quite new to me.
Mhm.
And choosing all the colors and everything is actually quite hard. Um, like the color you think you need isn't always the one you need. She's wearing a white nurse's uniform, and I thought I needed a bright white, but it turns out that no, it looks more realistic if you use like off white or cream or like almost beige. It's yeah. Um, that was interesting, but yeah, I'm quite proud
Mm.
of that. It's now done, and I think she liked it, so that's good. And now I can work on projects that are less stressful again, which is fun.
That is always nice.
Yeah. So, what is our topic for today?
Well, you might have noticed it's been very hot lately,
Yeah. Yeah, it has been somewhat warm.
and the thing that makes that happen is called the sun.
You learn a
So
lot of things here on Bread and Thread.
I thought I would look at sun protection.
Oh, that's a good one.
Thank you.
Just complimenting you on your choice of episode topic. Yeah, so I hadn't actually thought about that, but now that you mention it, I guess the sun has been hot for pretty much all of history, so we must
It
have been
has.
doing something to protect ourselves.
So I have kind of a roundup of sun protection in various places, and then I'm going to get into sun cream.
Okay.
Um, so you can probably guess that the most common forms of sun protection in the past were big hats and smearing stuff on yourself.
I think I like the first one more.
Um, yeah, I mean it's I don't know if you remember from like primary school the slip slap slop thing
What?
where you gotta slip on some long sleeves to protect your skin from the sun. You gotta slap on a hat and you gotta slop on some sun cream. Did you not have that?
No, I don't remember that.
It was like this national sun protection campaign.
Okay. Man, I'm not sure if slap is
I
like
think we stole it from Australia.
that would make sense. But I'm just like if you tell a child to slap on a hat, I'm not sure if you're gonna get the desired result.
I mean, I think as a kid I just enjoyed saying slip slap slop.
I mean, I guess it works in that sense.
I mean, no one ever actually did the long sleeves part because it was also hot when it was sunny, but
Mm.
the thought was there. So you have things like, yeah, the very stereotypical sort of conical Southeast Asian hat.
Hmm.
Um, Apparently the Vietnamese name for it is non la, which I
Hmm.
probably pronounced wrong because I'm really bad at tonal languages. I don't control my voice tone that well sometimes.
I think
Um,
I would give it a go, but I can't remember if the non is pronounced with a falling or a rising tone. And
does it help to know that the vowels have both got accents on them in this transliteration?
yeah, no, I do remember vaguely how it's pronounced, but I think it's like non la, but I might have mixed up the tones. So please tell me if that was terrible, because I was always quite bad with my pronunciation.
But however you pronounce it, apparently means leaf hat.
That is
Um,
cool. I like
'Cause there
that.
would traditionally be things like you see in a lot of like sort of Japanese and Chinese cartoons, I think, where people just get like a lotus leaf and put it on their head.
Oh,
But obviously these are, you know, properly constructed garments, but that's kind of the vibe, I guess. But because they're entirely plant matter, you can just like dip them in water and then put them back on to help keep you cool,
ooh,
which sounds really refreshing right now, I'm gonna
yeah,
be
that sounds
honest.
really nice.
And obviously similar to that, you've also got parasols, which Assyria apparently had parasols made of palm fronds.
Okay.
And again, in places like Southeast Asia, you have a lot of parasols made from things like bamboo paper and silk,
Oh, that
like
sounds so
long
fancy.
before they took off here.
I guess like we don't necessarily have as enough sun to merit inventing something like that.
No, I think they were mostly a thing during the if you're posh, you keep yourself pale to show that you don't have to go work outside kind of eras,
Mm.
which I will get to. Um, but in terms of protective garments, there's also people like um, sort of First Nations people in the very north of Canada and Alaska, as well as sort of Siberia, Greenland, the whole sort of North Pole area. Um, there's actually snow goggles
Okay.
as a part of traditional wear to protect your eyes from the sun, because obviously snow blindness is a real risk up there.
Yeah.
Which are basically sort of a glasses shape made of ivory, wood, whatever material you can get hold of, basically with just thin slits to look through
Hmm.
to help reduce snow blindness, which I think is really cool because it's not necessarily a sun protection thought, but also it is going to protect you from the same
Yeah.
stuff that sunglasses protects you from.
Yeah, like that's really clever.
Um, I am going to do a separate thing on sunglasses, but there have been sunglasses found. Um, sorry, I've forgotten the era now. I can't find when it was from now, but people in the past did have sunglasses made from things like smoky glass or certain stones, which were sort of a translucent dark look. I will find a picture to tweet. I don't remember the era offhand. Um, which wouldn't necessarily protect you from the UV,
Hmm.
which is the main issue with the sun, but it'd at least be easier to see when it was bright.
Okay. That's at least something.
Yeah, that's why I haven't included sunglasses properly in this because a lot of it is just about historically is just about sort of make it less bright rather than actually protecting your eyes,
Okay.
which is a whole thing because if you make it less bright, it can make you more susceptible to the UV in your eyes if they're not also UV
Oh,
protective.
really?
Yeah, so there's different categories of sunglasses, which are basically how much UV protection you get. And the lowest
Okay.
category, which doesn't give you any, is actually really bad because your eyes go, "Oh, it's really dark. We need to let more light in."
Oh, so it's like worse than not wearing sunglasses.
Yeah, because
Oh no.
you're letting in more light and not being protected from the UV. You're letting in more UV,
Oh no.
which is a problem.
Yeah, that's an issue.
Um, but in the sort of putting stuff on your skin category of sun protection, which I think we're more familiar with,
Hmm.
um, there's definitely a lot of sort of get what's around you and put it on your face.
I do really love the idea of just like grabbing a big leaf and then just using that. Like it's so whimsical.
I do love the leaf hat. Like the because it must have evolved from just putting a leaf on your head for the shade, mustn't it?
Yeah, like it's just kind of a ready-made parasol, like it's there.
And the construction of them now is so intricate. Like I've seen videos of people making them and it's so much delicate work.
Oh wow.
Like it must take you years to learn to do it properly.
Can you
Um,
put a link to any of those videos if you can remember
I will. I'm gonna
which
make a note
ones?
that I'm gonna tweet the old sunglasses and I'm gonna tweet um either a leaf hat or a bamboo parasol
Okay.
video. Because there's a specific bamboo parasol video that's really fun to watch. It's really satisfying. but I will see if I
Mhm.
can find a leaf hat one as well. Um, so yeah, putting stuff on your skin. One of the sort of bigger ones that we know about is the Himba people of Namibia, who still do this. They use a mixture of fat and red ochre to put
Okay.
it on your skin and on your hair.
Okay, I've seen pictures of the hair covering, but I didn't realize it was used for skin as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because there's, you know, some ethnographers say that it's this traditional sun protection and it protects you from insects, and like it does do that, but a lot of Himba now say it's more of an aesthetic thing.
Mhm.
So it's that interesting thing of sort of which one was it originally?
Okay.
No one really knows, but I mean, I think it's a good look, and it
Yeah.
does provide some protection.
I mean, I guess why not both?
Yeah. Um,
Actually, maybe I mean, sun cream manufacturers are missing a trick with tinted sun creams.
I mean, the amount of people that complain about sun cream leaving like a white residue, or especially on more pigmented skin, making kind of an ashy look. Leaning into it with just pigmented sun cream would be interesting.
Yeah, maybe there's a market there. I don't know.
Look into it, Nivea.
Yeah, and if you do it, you have to give me the royalties because it was my idea. No one else ever has had that idea ever, apart from me on this podcast. I
Yeah.
definitely think that's true. So
If you
yeah,
invent
money
tinted
please.
sun cream, you have to give Bread and Thread half of your profits. In Myanmar, there's a paste called thanaka, which is made from tree bark and is sun protection and an aesthetic thing.
Mhm.
The source I was reading describes it as a decorative shield against the sun.
That is an excellent description.
Ancient Greece obviously using olive oil, which maybe not the best choice.
No, that doesn't sound like a good idea.
Like I think we know now that oil is more of a tanning encourager than a sun
Yeah.
protection. So, but
Famously gets hot very easily.
so it's a classic sitcom prank, isn't it? Um, Ancient Egypt used one that sounds quite nice. Uh, rice bran and jasmine.
Ooh, that sounds like it would have a good after smell.
It does. We've created the word after smell, and I don't like it.
We have. In fact, I'm going to create my own aftershave and it's going to be called After Smell. And it's going to smell of rice bran and jasmine.
Interestingly, rice bran actually does provide a lot of UV protection and is still used in some modern sun creams.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Maybe we should bring it back.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Get some jasmine scented tinted sun cream. Um, yeah, and then you get to 16th century Venice and there's people with black velvet masks to keep your face pale.
Oh, I've actually heard about these from uh, uh, I saw a portrait that had a woman wearing one of these in. And there were people commenting on it like what's going on here? Is this some kind of like representation of something? And then um somebody pointed out that that was actually a thing. Like ladies would wear these black masks that makes your face just look like void.
If you can find a picture of that, that's gonna have to also go on the Twitter.
Yeah, I will do my best. It was quite a striking picture.
Yeah, it's genuinely creepy to look at.
I didn't
But
realize that was like a sun protection thing as well, though. Like,
it's to keep your face pale when you're walking around.
okay, that makes sense. But also, like, it sounds like that would make you just look terrifying.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so if we jump forwards to this article that I found on Sci-Hub, um, so people knew that skin cancer was a thing, and they knew that sunburn was a thing.
Hmm.
Um, but it becomes sort of a formal connection in in Western medicine in the right at the end of the 19th century. There's a study by a German doctor called Unna in 1894, where he basically goes, "Hey, maybe these are connected. I did some science, and I think they might be connected."
Well done.
Did you say well done?
I did. Oh, you just made him sound just like really unsure of himself. It's like, hey, guys. I, I, I mean, no worries if you're not, but I just thought you might be interested in some science that I did. Um, I
Well,
mean, it's really just a first attempt. It's really,
I
just.
feel like he was probably more confident than that, but you know, so yeah, he referred to sailor's skin carcinoma, where he
Okay.
talks about sailors who obviously got a lot more sun exposure than most people
Hmm.
having more cases of skin cancer, and then another doctor whose name I cannot pronounce. And I can't work out where he's from because the paper's name is in Latin, so I cannot figure it out. Um, Came up with a similar theory about vineyard workers who would also be out in the sun all day.
Hmm.
And we pretty much figured out that sun exposure was linked to skin cancer by sort of the start of the 1920s.
Okay. Well, that one
Which,
took a while.
yeah, I guess at that point we were still at the stage of all disease is either germs or like your brain messing up. These are the two things. And then these guys are like, but what if it was the sun?
And they were right.
They
It
were
was the
right.
sun.
I would like to make it clear that they were correct.
We're just becoming a science conspiracy theory podcast from here on in.
What is the conspiracy theory here?
That the sun is blameless.
That is a hot take, but you know that there's gonna be someone who
Oh,
believes it.
a hot take.
To quote a Tumblr post, you go knocking on enough doors asking for the devil, eventually he's gonna answer. You cannot come up with a spicy take that someone doesn't genuinely believe.
Sorry, I'm just trying to calm down from having possibly made the greatest pun ever.
So yeah, sunscreen becomes commercially available in 1928. So they were pretty fast on that. Um, Although how useful it would have been, it probably had zinc oxide in it, which is a useful one.
Okay.
Well, because there's two kinds of sunscreen, um, which is the word I'm going to use because it's the more sort of technical term, I guess, even though it's not the UK word for it.
Hmm.
There's ones that reflect the UV back, and there's ones that absorb it, which is why a lot of sun cream has things like zinc oxide and titanium dioxide in. because they're bright white and reflective, so they leave that sort of layer on your skin.
Ah, I see. Okay.
Yeah, one of the earliest sunscreens, it was created by a World War II pilot called Benjamin Green. It's red veterinary petrolatum,
Oh gosh, that's a
um,
name.
or red vet pet for short, which was this sort of sticky, slimy red, like petroleum jelly-like substance.
Huh.
But he eventually ended up founding Coppertone, which is a sunscreen manufacturer.
Okay. Are they still going?
I believe they are still going.
Oh wow.
Um, but the first sort of yeah, most of the sources I found say that the first sunscreen was invented in Australia by H.A. Milton Blake, which was an actual UV filtering thing rather than just zinc oxide.
Okay. That sounds somewhat more useful.
Definitely, yeah. And
Nothing
then
else.
in 1974, they started introducing actual formal measurements of how effective various sunscreens were. It's when you get SPF, which is sun
Oh, I
protection
see.
factor.
So there wasn't until the 1970s.
No,
Wow. So you just buy sun cream and then be like, well, is this going to protect me? Is it going to make UV worse? Let's find out.
what's the worst that could happen? Oh yeah, yeah. So SPF was actually invented in the 60s, but it wasn't sort of a formal, official, well-known thing until the 70s, basically.
Okay.
So do you know what the numbers mean on SPF? Because I did not until researching this.
Okay, so I know the higher the number is, the better protection it's meant to be, right? But apart from
Mhm.
that, I know nothing.
So the idea is it's basically so if you have SPF 30, that
Mhm.
means that 1/30th of the radiation will get to your skin,
Okay.
which basically means you can be out in the sun for 30 times as long, not accounting for the fact, obviously, that the protection wears off over time and you have to reapply.
Mhm. Oh,
But yeah,
wow.
that's why the higher the number, the better.
That's actually pretty useful to know.
Yeah, so the example that I found in one of the articles I was looking at is, yeah, if it will take you 10 minutes to get sunburn in just without anything on, if you wear SPF 15, you can be out for 150 minutes.
All right.
But most sun creams still say to reapply every couple of hours, which is fair because it does wear off over time because you shed skin and friction and all that stuff.
Mhm. And especially if you're swimming, right, it can wear off quicker.
Oh yeah, like even waterproof ones will wear off. And
Mm.
obviously sweat is also a form of water. This is just turning into a little bit of a PSA, but also I did have to have a mole removed last week, so I'm very
I
aware of the dangers of the sun right now.
feel like we do stray into the realm of PSA on occasion, but
Yeah.
always in the interests of like historically related things.
Oh yeah, it's like we've known about this connection for about 100 years now. You better be aware of it.
Put your sunscreen on, kids.
Slip, slap, slop.
Slip, slap, slop. Indeed, I need to do that more often. Actually, I often forget sun cream. Although
Indeed, me too.
I have been acquainted with the benefits of a massive hat.
I do enjoy a massive hat.
I think massive hats need to make a comeback.
I was on site doing some digging last week in my massive hat, and I felt very good about myself.
Amazing.
So yeah, now we have yes, sun cream. You can list up to SPF 50 in places like the EU and Australia. In the US, I believe you can't actually advertise as SPF 50 yet because the FDA isn't convinced that all of the things that say 50 are definitely actually factor 50.
Okay.
Um, there's also different sun creams are more protective against UVA or UVB, so you do need to keep an eye out for when they say like, do they actually say both? Because some of them don't.
Ah. This is all I'm just like jotting this down. This is really good information to have.
Yeah, like the UVA UVB thing is a much more recent discovery that there's actually two different ones.
Okay.
Um, there's also some ingredients in some sun cream that can cause coral reef bleaching, apparently, which are being phased out.
Hmm.
Should I say the names of them
Yeah, go ahead. Someone might be interested.
for our listeners? Oxybenzone and octinoxate. That's hard to say. Um, so yeah, so when we're now at a point where people are trying to find different things to put in sun cream to make it as effective as possible and as coral reef safe as possible.
I mean, that's pretty good. I'm glad we're doing that.
So yeah,
But I do think bringing back the historically sound method of big hats and possibly also parasols is probably a good idea as well, alongside our modern methods.
definitely. And you know, everyone looks good in a big hat is the thing.
But everyone is sun protected in a big hat.
You look good in a big hat, you don't look good with sunburn.
That is
That's
true.
the takeaway from this. So yeah, there's my brief history of sun protection. I definitely missed some stuff out, but I didn't want this to turn into a whole like TED talk.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty big area. I mean, there must be I mean, even things like cultural practices, like going for a nap in the afternoon, could be a way of dealing with sun. So,
Oh yeah, and there's also like things that are definitely just cosmetic, like lead makeup to be like, yes, I'm definitely pale and have not been in the sun at all.
oh gosh, yeah, then there's pretending that you haven't been in the sun when in fact you may
Yeah,
have been.
it's which I find funny the sort of switch from I've definitely not been in the sun to I definitely have. Like there's places advertising like come on our sunbeds for your pre-holiday tan because you know you can't go on
Gosh.
your tropical holiday without a tan. You need one when you get there.
Yeah, it's when
The
you think about
fact
it,
that
it's
being able to travel to sunny places has made like flipped the status symbol thing.
and it's been quite a fast flip actually, like to the point that we're still like in some places you can go into the supermarket and they'll have tanning products next to like the skin lightening products. And I'm like, okay.
Oh yeah, when you get into colorism as well, it's like a whole extra thing.
Oh
It's
yeah, I
like
mean,
between colorism, racism, classism, there's this general idea that there's this one specific color you're supposed to be, but not if it's your natural skin tone.
mm,
It's
I
yeah,
mean that's an interesting one, and I suppose that's getting more into the realm of like social commentary, but um
yes. And also like we're both white, so I don't want to. This is someone else's rant to do.
but there's certainly, I mean, if anyone's interested in doing that, there's an interesting like historical episode to be made on like quote unquote fashionable skin color throughout history.
Oh yeah, like if this is something that you know about or you know someone who knows about, like get in touch with us honestly.
Hello, I'm Mod Pencil from Probably Bad RPG Ideas. If you'd like to hear discussions of ideas such as what if in my urban fantasy game magic turns out to not be real, and what is the best rules for an open, then listen to the Probably Bad podcast, which is available on everywhere podcasts are and also YouTube. Or check out our Tumblr and Twitter.
Do you want to hear about bears?
I do want to hear about bears.
So this is a local larder. That
Are
is
people
bear
eating
related.
bears?
Yes, people are in fact eating bears and have been for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was a bit stumped for local larder this week, so I decided that I would have a flick through our good friend Alexandre Dumas and his From Absence to Zest, an alphabet for food lovers. And he did not let me down. We did do an episode on that. I forgot what number it was. But we did indeed do an episode on Alexandre Dumas, who was famously a food lover and wrote this whole dictionary of food. And he has
episode 10.
Episode 10. Oh my goodness. Was that our second person episode? Or was that our first?
It was our first person episode because the episode 5 was the form of Curie.
Wow.
It was our first bio.
Oh, he was our
A
first
year
man.
ago.
Our first dude. Okay.
We love and
Okay.
support Alexandre Dumas.
We do. I mean, he's kind of insufferable sometimes, but I love him. So there is an entry of bear in this food dictionary,
Okay.
and this is going to lead on to the actual regional food that I'm going to talk about. But I just wanted to read out what he says under bear, because it's amazing. So there are few people of our generation who do not recall the sensation caused by the first installment of my Impressions de Voyage, when people read the article entitled Bear Steak. So, being totally modest about his book here. There was a universal outcry against the audacious narrator who dared to say that there were places in civilized Europe where bear is eaten.
Dear.
I could at that time have given to readers the advice which I give them today, but I took good care not to. There was a big commotion about the book, and since at that time I was just embarking on a literary career, I could ask for nothing better.
He does.
Our boy knows how it's done.
You gotta play the game.
But to my great astonishment, the person who should have been most pleased by the uproar, the innkeeper de Martigny. I think this is the innkeeper that he wrote he'd eaten bear at this guy's place. Was furious. He wrote to upbraid me. He wrote to the newspapers to get them to state in his name that he had never served bear to his travellers. But his fury kept increasing as each traveller asked him as their first question, "Do you have any bear?" I love the fact that Dumas told this story in his book, and now this poor innkeeper is just getting tourists coming in, being like, "You got a bear? I want to try the bear." And he's like, "I
don't blame them though. I think I would as well.
Yeah, although Dumas goes on to say, if this stupid man had thought to answer yes and then served ass, horse meat, or mule instead of bear, he would have made a fortune.
See, this is why we love and support you.
Absolutely. Since that time, we've become more civilized. Bear hams have been a dish which one doesn't meet in every salted provision dealer's premises, but which one can find without too much difficulty. And he gives a recipe that he says comes from Monsieur Urbain Dubois, the cook of their Majesties of Prussia, for the way in which you can serve bear feet. And I looked into this guy, and he was in the late 19th century. He was the cook for the King of Prussia, and he was also previously to that the cook of a Russian ambassador. So presumably that's where he learnt this recipe. I don't know. So here, according to Monsieur Urbain Dubois, the cook of their Majesties of Prussia, is the way in which these feet are served in Moscow, St. Petersburg, and throughout all of Russia. The paws are sold skinned. One starts by washing them, salting them, putting them in terrine, and covering them with a marinade cooked with vinegar in which they are allowed to steep for 2 or 3 days. Then line a casserole with bacon and ham trimmings and chopped vegetables. Lay the bear's feet on the vegetables, cover them with the marinade, some bouillon, and some bards of bacon. Let them cook for 7 or 8 hours on a very low flame, adding liquid as it reduces. When the paws are cooked, leave them in the liquid until they are nearly cold. They should then be drained and wiped, divided lengthwise in 4, sprinkled with cayenne pepper, and rolled in melted lard. Roll them with breadcrumbs and grill them gently for half an hour. Then arrange them on a platter into which you have poured a piquant sauce. So this is a recipe for breaded bear legs.
You pickle them, and then you slow cook them, and then you turn them into fingers.
Kind of, essentially, yeah. And then
Bear nuggets.
Bear nuggets. So this sent me on a quest to learn more about this supposed like Russian bear culinary tradition. And it turns out that like when you do an internet search for bear ham, you get a lot of entries for the Billy Bear ham, like the ham that's shaped like a bear's face. And people are very divided about this, apparently. Some people are like, oh, beloved childhood memory. And then some people are like, if you've ever beaten Billy Bear ham, you don't need to worry about what's in the vaccine.
Oh, I loved Billy Bear.
But I was, in fact, looking for information about real bear. And it turns out that it is, in fact, a meat that was widely eaten pretty much around the world, actually. Like wherever there are bears, because people have been hunting things for a long time.
If you're killing it anyway.
And bears were famously throughout history hunted for their fur and for like their fat as well, which was used in like creams and things.
When you say creams, like cosmetics, do you mean?
And as well as sort of like it was used for like skin conditions.
Ah, okay. Weird medicines.
Yeah. But then also apparently it was quite good for like apparently it was used by some indigenous groups for like protecting your skin during the winter.
I guess it would probably be quite a powerful moisturizer.
Yeah. So bears being a thing that was eaten is pretty well known, and that like there's plenty of black bears in Russia. Dumas says that is the kind of bear that lives in the Kamchatka region. In fact, he also says the forest and countryside of Kamchatka are full of bears who only attack when they are attacked themselves. And the peculiar thing is that they never harm women, whom they nevertheless follow to steal the fruit which they are gathering. So there you go, bears, feminist
I support
icon.
the Kamchatka bears.
Me too. So this led me through a few recipes from like modern hunters on like how to prepare bear. The main thing being you have to be very careful if you're preparing bear meat. It's easy to get ill from it.
I've heard that if
you're
you
not
eat bear liver, you can die of vitamin A poisoning.
Oh gosh. Okay, yeah, that's a bad one. Bears are also like the leading cause of trichinosis in North America, which is a parasitic disease that used to be quite common in pigs.
Yeah, not a fan of that one.
Until not great. So due to like improved health care of farm animals, that's much less common in pigs. But still pretty common in bears, and also due to bears like not really being a thing that is farmed except in some cases, which like isn't great. But like they're generally a wild meat if people are eating them, and so like you don't know what they have. So if you are gonna hunt a bear and eat it, which you shouldn't do unless you know whether or not they are like endangered in your area and like all of that. It needs to be cooked at the right temperature to kill any potential trichinosis parasites. Anyway, I came across a recipe for pelmeni.
After all that, that's
which
quite a
are
nice name.
a kind of it is, and they are dumplings. They are a kind of like sourdough
Ooh.
dumpling originating in the Ural regions of Siberia. But apparently they're now really popular just all across Russia and
Well,
Eastern
you
Europe.
mean you can't go wrong with a dumpling?
Oh, you cannot. You absolutely cannot. They look a little bit like really hench tortellini.
Tortelloni?
And that one.
Sorry, that was just me playing with Italian.
And they are traditionally made with sourdough like dough and wild meats such as moose or bear in Siberia. And yeah, they look absolutely delicious. And apparently they are. Apparently these days, like the kind of commercial versions that you can find in a lot of Eastern Europe are made with just kind of like the regular dough and like obviously not with wild meats or anything. But the traditional way of making it is with a fermented dough, like a sourdough or like soured with whey. So like you would just leave the dough for a little bit and
So
then
are they similar to bao then, with the kind of meat in the middle and then bread around it?
I mean bao are much fluffier. I think like yes. Um the meat is inside, but it's more like pierogi, I guess. It's like kind of a crescent shape that's like a miniature pasty that's then pulled round into a
Okay, I get
circle.
you.
Yeah. Yeah. They also have like onions and things inside. And apparently they are delicious. And I have to say, I mean, I kind of want to try making these, probably not with bear, because I feel like that's kind of difficult to get.
I mean,
But
I have been thinking on our YouTube at some point we should just do like a dumpling roundup.
oh yes, dumplings are a whole episode. Every culture has its dumpling, and all of them, without exception, are delicious. I haven't even tried all of them, and I can confidently say that because a dumpling is a
Tell you what,
dumpling.
50 patron goal. I'm making it official. 50 patrons. We make a bunch of dumplings from around the world.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, I'm looking forward to that already. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my local larder. The pelmeni, the Russian bear dumpling. And I'm gonna put a link to this recipe that I found if anyone is interested in trying to make those at home. Apparently, obviously, you can use a different meat. But an interesting thing was apparently it definitely matters as well what the bear has been eating, because if the bear has been mainly feeding on fish, then apparently it tastes awful.
You want like a vegan bear?
So there you go. I guess. I doubt that like anyone listening to this is ever gonna hunt a bear, but just in case you do, there's some advice.
Sure.
However, I am definitely gonna try these dumplings. So yeah, there you go. A very winding and so we took the long road to dumplings, but we got there.
Well, you had to bring in friend of the show, Alexandre Dumas.
I did, absolutely. I needed to give you his take on it because it is glorious.
So if you want to get us one step closer to our big dumpling adventure, you can visit patreon.com/breadandthread, where you can get access to a Discord server where we talk about food and crafts, and monthly recipes written by me. Our most recent one was a blueberry cheesecake sundae, which I made
Yum.
for some friends who came round a couple of years ago, and it went down very well.
I'm not surprised. Oh gosh, sorry, I got distracted by Sundays. We also have Twitter, Bread and Thread, where you can find teasers of upcoming episodes and links to things that we talk about in the podcast. And we have a YouTube channel that is also called Bread and Thread, which has our episodes, but on YouTube, and also various things like
I
soap
put up a
making.
video of me making tallow soap. There will also be other videos soon.
Yeah, I did actually make a video of looking inside the Encyclopedia of Needlework, which I put on my own YouTube, but I don't know if it's worth putting it
I
on the
think
Bread
that
and
would be
Thread as
good.
well. Okay. Yeah, what else do we have?
We have a Tumblr, which is also Bread and Thread, which has pretty much the same stuff as the Twitter, but Tumblr. Yeah.
We're just covering all our bases.
And yeah, if you want to suggest an episode or tell us about if you've eaten bear meat, or just tell us about your favorite dumpling, so we can make a list.
Please tell us
Either
about the
messages on
dumplings.
one of those or email breadandthreadpodcast@gmail.com. And we will be back in a couple of weeks.